Hey guys, what is up? This is Tio or Tony here. This is actually going to be my first time ever recording a storytime video ever, so bear with me here. I did get this inspiration off of a YouTuber named Luna, so shout out to him. I'm going to leave his channel in the description below and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy and let's get into it. So this story all starts off with me at the age of, I believe, 14 or 15, so it was a few years ago, and I was sitting in my room smoking weed because at the time I did smoke weed, and I've been doing some research about psychedelics like mushrooms, acid, stuff like that for quite some time, and I was really getting into it, like understanding how that stuff works and how it alters your mind, all that type of stuff. And I was really thinking on trying it, thinking on seeing how it would feel, all that type of stuff. So next thing you know, like the next day or a couple days after, I hit up the plug. Let's call this plug J because I'm not going to use his real name for, obvious reasons. And well, I hit up the plug for, some shrooms, and I did not know what I was getting myself into here. But yeah, anyways, I hit up the plug, and within, 20-30 minutes, the plug came, handed me the shrooms, handed him the money, and he went off his way. And I'm not gonna lie, this plug, he was pretty known for being sketchy, and I'm not sure, if he put anything in the shrooms or whatever, but, I still got the shrooms, and I went into my room. I got like a quarter of shrooms, which is like 7 grams of shrooms, which is way too much for your first time ever doing shrooms. One, don't take this many shrooms for your first time. Second of all, if you're gonna take that many shrooms, please be careful and have like a trip sitter with you or somebody to watch you and make sure that you're, okay and not going to like hurt yourself, or if you're going to like hurt other people, because these shrooms, they will take you on a crazy ass adventure. So just please make sure that you have somebody with you and to watch you and stuff like that, because I have had many shroom trips and been around people that have had some pretty crazy experiences with these shrooms, and like I said, they will take you on a crazy ass adventure. But anyways, yeah, I'm just sitting there with a quarter of shrooms, and the reason why I had so many in the first place was because I was supposed to take half of them, so an eighth for myself, which is 3.5, and then another 3.5 for my friend Michael. He was supposed to take the other half of the shrooms. And like I said, this is my first time taking them, and this is Michael's first time taking them, so we didn't really know how much was too much or not enough. So we kind of just said fuck it and let's just buy like a big amount of them just so we have like enough to feel them. So I started to take the half of my shrooms, and Michael was not even at my house yet. I was just in my room by myself with these shrooms, eating them, and I ate them by themselves, not even put them on a sandwich, didn't eat them with anything, just ate them straight up like raw. And I'll tell you what, the taste of them, it wasn't too bad. They taste pretty bad. They taste like shit because they grow from shit, but they were not that bad. I honestly thought they would have tasted way worse, but they didn't taste that bad. So I'm just sitting there eating these shrooms, just munching on them, and I finally finished them, and I'm just sitting there not really knowing what to expect after I'm not eating them. I didn't know if they were gonna like kick in right away. I didn't know if I had to wait a while, which after I took them, I realized I had to wait a while. So after I waited a while, I was smoking still after I ate them, which is not a good idea. Do not do that. Do not smoke while you're on shrooms or before you take them or whatever. I was just being dumb, even though I did the research to not smoke while you're on psychedelics, but I was still smoking at the time, so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna smoke. Maybe it'll make them kick in quicker. I don't even know. So after I smoked and, still waiting for the shrooms to kick in, I invited my friend, let's call him Aaron. My friend Aaron came over, and I was going to have him, trip sit me for a little bit and have him, make sure that I was going to be okay. Because like I said, this was my first time doing them, and I did not know what to expect or what to feel. So I kind of just had him come over just to watch me, make sure that I didn't go too insane. So Aaron came over, like 20 minutes after, because he lives right across the street from me in the same neighborhood. And he pretty much just chilled with me for a little bit. We sat in my room for a while. He was making sure that I was okay. He was asking me like, do you feel them yet? Just questions that you ask somebody whenever you take any type of, I guess, drug or psychedelic for the first time. At least for my case, that's what happened. And I decided, I was like, I remember reading and saying whenever you go outside, everything seems a lot more colorful, everything seems a lot more alive. So I asked Aaron to go outside. So me and Aaron, we went outside to go on a walk, and the shrooms, I to be honest, whenever I did go outside, everything did feel a little bit more colorful and I guess like there more. And we went outside for a walk and I started to feel them a little bit. We walked down the street and I remember the little tiny cracks in the road looked like they were like, I don't know, just popping out and somewhat moving a little bit. And I was honestly just in my own little tiny world, just walking around and looking at stuff, you know, kind of like being more colorful and getting the euphoric feeling that you get on mushrooms. And Aaron kept asking me like, are you good? Are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm chilling. And I remember I kept on telling him, I'm like, yo, bro, things are moving, blah, blah, blah. Probably just me, like, in my own head thinking that I was feeling them, but it was just probably the come up feeling. So me and Aaron continued to walk down the street, and I'm getting a little bit more, you know, movement in my visual, a little bit more color enhancement. And Aaron comes up with this bright idea to go in the woods. There's these woods right by my house, like right down the street, that have like a little trail into it. It's kind of like a horseshoe. So like there's one entrance on one side and one entrance on the other side, and it like meets in the middle, and that's where the main area of the woods are. So Aaron was like, do you want to go in the woods? And I said, sure. Just, you know, why not? Because we were walking that way anyways. So we go into the first entrance that's closer to us, and we're walking into the woods, you know, walking around trees, bushes, stuff like that. And I'm starting to feel the shrooms a little bit more. And once we get to a certain area that it's about to bend into the middle, and it's not that far of a walk, it's like a 5-minute walk to the bend. We get to the bend, and for some reason, the shrooms just hit me pretty hard. And it was like a really weird, like, tilt, like oozy feeling in my stomach, and I was like, whoa, that was weird. And he's like, are you good? And I was like, yeah, I'm good, just I'm feeling them a little bit more. So we continue walking, we get towards the middle, and we sit down, and in the middle there's like this fire pit area with like wooden logs as chairs, and we sat there for a little bit. And I'm not gonna lie, we sat there for a decent amount of time, but to me, time felt like it was going by like slow and fast at the same time. We were only there for like 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like we were there for like 30 minutes, and it was really weird. So I'm sitting there for a while trying to comprehend what was going on because of that feeling that I got right before we got into like the main area of the woods. And honestly, that feeling went away after we sat down for a while. And then so we get back up, we walk back out of the woods, and I remember we were walking out of the woods, and you know, AJ's like playing music and stuff, and the music sounds pretty cool. And we walk out of the woods, and I remember looking down the road and seeing like the white line between both sides of the road. It kind of was like bending and looking like a snake, but not really. It was kind of weird, but it was kind of cool at the same time. So we walk back to my house the same way that we walked towards the woods, like that same street. And I remember looking at the cars in the driveway, and it looked like the cars were like backing up, but they weren't. So it was kind of freaking me out because for some reason I thought that I was gonna get hit by a car because they were backing out of the driveway whenever they weren't. So it kind of freaked me out, but it wasn't as scary as it like seems. So we get back to my house, and we walk back into my house, and AJ actually left. AJ left when we got back to my house. I do not know why he left, but he left. And I remember walking up the stairs up to my room, and the stairs, for some reason, they did this really weird invert thing. It's like you're walking up the stairs, but like they come up in invert. I do not know how to explain it, but however you want to imagine it, you can imagine it. So I get into my room, I sit there for a little bit, and as I'm sitting there, I felt more comfortable in my room, so the shroom feeling kind of like faded away for a second, and I was like fading in and out of the shroom feeling for a little bit, and after a while, the shroom feeling kind of just like went away, and I thought I wasn't tripping anymore. So the little old me, dumb me, stupid Tony, decides to eat the other 3.5 grams of other mushrooms that I had saved from Michael, which was so stupid. Do not do this. And yeah, I ate them. I ate them whole, ate them raw again by themselves, ate the whole thing. And that was a very bad idea. So that took a very big turn very quickly. So I ate them, and as I'm eating them, Michael did come over, and he walked to my house because he lived, you know, pretty much on the same street, same as Aaron. And he walked over, got to my house in about like 20 or so minutes as well. And he knocked on my door, and he looked at me, and he gave me a really big smile, kind of. And he was like, "You good, Tony?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing good." So he came inside, and he was like, "All right, where's my shrooms at? Like, where's the shrooms I'm gonna take?" And I told him I ate them, and he was like, "What?" And yeah, I told him I ate them all, and he was like, "Oh shit." So Michael decides to order more from the plug from Jay. So he hits up Jay. Jay comes back, and he gives Michael, you know, another eighth of shrooms. He bought it himself, So Michael decided to take his half. So Michael, ate them, didn't put them on anything, ate them raw, same as me. And Michael's just waiting there while I'm just tripping. And I remember we sat in my room for a bit, and the weed that I was smoking at the time was just straight purple weed. Like, there was no green on it, was just straight purple and orange weed. And the weed smokers out there know that, straight purple weed's pretty good. So we rolled up a few blunts of purple weed, and we just smoked them. And I was just, off the shrooms. He was waiting for his to kick in, and we're just smoking. And we sat in my room for a bit after we smoked, and then, Michael was feeling them a little bit too. And at the time, me and Michael were both dating these two girls, and both of their names were Kylie. And that's another story for itself. But yeah, me and Michael were dating these two girls, and both of their names were Kylie. So my girlfriend name was Kylie at the time, and his girlfriend name was Kylie also at the time. And they both knew that me and him were like taking shrooms that day and that we were gonna be tripping. So me and Michael were talking to them, laughing on the phone, stuff like that. Me and Michael decided to go to the beach for sunset because, the sunset would look nice on shrooms, everything looks nice and colorful, all that type of stuff. So me and Michael, we had my mom, which at the time did not know that we were on shrooms. So it was pretty funny because we had to hide it from her. But me and Michael, we were in the car on the way to the beach for the sunset. My mom dropped us off, and we just chilled there for a little bit. And I remember watching the sunset, and the sunset looked like a tie-dye shirt in the sky. I don't really know how to explain it, but the colors and the way how they were like, I guess, intertwining with each other, it just looked like a tie-dye shirt in the sky. And I was like, yo, Michael, bro, do you see this? And he's like, yeah, bro, I see the same thing. And me and him were just laughing our asses off, talking about funny stuff, talking about our girlfriends at the time. So we sat there at sunset for a while, waited until it got dark, and we just, just chilled. So we had my mom actually come pick us back up from the beach. And me and Michael had plans that night to go to Kylie's house. And Kylie was at Kylie's house. So it was both girlfriends and me and Michael. So we got picked up from the beach. We went back to my house to get ready. And me and him were just, off the shrooms. And I'm feeling mine like crazy. The second batch that I took is kicking in. Michael's feeling his, and we're having a good time, right? We get back to the house, we eat dinner, we pack our stuff, and next thing you know, we have my mom take us to Kylie's house. So we're on the way to Kylie's house, and it was pitch black outside. It was dark outside. And I remember on the way to Kylie's house, it felt like I was not even in the car because it was pitch black, and it felt like I was just floating down the road. That's all I remember, was looking out the window, and I remember it felt like I was just floating down the road because I couldn't see in front of me. I couldn't even see my hands in front of me, but all I could feel was just floating down the road. I remember me and Michael looked at each other, and Michael was like, yo, bro, we're gonna make it through this. And I'm like, yeah, bro, we're gonna make it through it. And we started like dabbing each other up and like not holding hands, but like dabbing each other up with like a handshake. And so anyways, we got to Kylie's house. My mom dropped us off. Michael got out of the car and he starts stumbling a little bit out of the car onto the driveway. That's what I remember. And I remember me getting out of the car just feeling like weird, kind of hard to walk, and I felt very like blob, like a jello. And I remember Kylie walked outside to the car to see us. Kylie walked outside to the car to come see us, and they looked at us and they're like, holy shit. And they started laughing, and my mom was like, okay, you guys have fun, be safe. And then she left. So my mom left, and I do not know how she did not find out or realize that we were like on something, on shrooms. But we got inside the house. I remember walking through the door and just looking around, and Kylie, the way how she had the setup for that night, for us to stay the night, she had an L-shaped couch in the living room, and in between the L-shaped couch was her bed mattress. It was like the L-shaped couch, the bed mattress in the middle. So Michael and Kylie, they laid down on the bed mattress, obviously. Me and the Kylie that I was dating, we laid down on like the couch part, on like the L-shaped couch on the very edge of it near the TV. And I remember Kylie, she put on the Smurfs to watch while we were on shrooms. And I was watching the Smurfs, and I remember looking at the TV and seeing like the outer edge of the TV, like the black part. It looked like a snake, and it was like, I don't know, I remember it looking like a snake slithering around, kind of like moving around and bending. It was really weird, but it was just me tripping. I remember me watching the Smurfs, and it felt like I was a Smurf because we ate shrooms, and Smurfs live in mushrooms. So I thought that there was a Smurf inside of me because the Smurfs live inside the mushrooms. So I thought I became a Smurf. And during the Smurf movie, whenever like there's the invisible wall, wall, and you can like go through it into the different universe, like the different world. I got up and I tried going into the TV because I thought I was a Smurf, and I tried going into the TV into the other world whenever that part came up. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? It was, I don't know, it was really weird. And then so I sat back down. Kylie had these tiki like wooden masks on the wall, and Michael was saying Nenwardo, and I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, Nenwardo's talking to me. And I remember looking at the tiki mask, and I was just hearing noises. The tiki masks were talking to me, and they were talking to each other. So whatever Michael was talking about, whatever Michael was hearing Nenwardo talking to him, I heard the exact same thing. And after that, I remember Michael could not talk anymore for how hard he was tripping. I remember him telling me after the trip that his jaw was like locked up for how hard he was tripping, and he couldn't speak anymore. He just had like a glued mouth, I guess. Anyways, I remember I had to get up and use the bathroom. And I got up to go use the bathroom, and I went to go pee, right? So, I pull my pants down to go pee, and my dick turned into a snake. No joke, my dick turned into a snake. And the reason why I thought it turned into a snake was because I thought my dick was the snake part. I thought the pee was like its tongue, and I thought like the peeing sound was like the hissing sound from the snake. No joke, I thought my dick was a snake, right? So I finished up peeing, and I was like, Kylie, there's a snake in your bathroom. And she's like, what? Like kind of like freaking out. She ran over to the bathroom, and she was like, there's no snake. And I was like, oh, what the? And I told them, I was like, yeah, dude, I swear there was a snake, blah, blah, blah. But obviously I was tripping, so, they didn't believe me. And the next thing you know, I turn around, I look into the mirror behind me in the bathroom, and I just look like a greenish purple Hulk. That's what I remember. It was a green purple Hulk. It was really weird. Anyways, so me, Kylie, and Michael and Kylie, they go lay back down, and me and Kylie go sit back down. And I remember sitting down, and the shroom trip was slowly like, coming down, and me and Michael would decide to go smoke again. And I remember we went outside to go smoke with the blunts that we had that we rolled up with the purple weed, and we started smoking blunts. And I remember the shroom feeling came back after we smoked, and it was pretty harsh. I'm not gonna lie, like I felt it pretty strong coming back, but it didn't feel as strong as much as I thought it was. But we smoked, and I was like feeling really, really weird. So we went back into Kylie's house, and we had to go to sleep because the next day we were going to SeaWorld. So Kylie's little sister, her name Kai, I'm just gonna call her Kai, she had these melatonin gummies, right, to go to sleep as well because she was young and she was staying up. I remember me and Michael walked over to the counter to eat these gummies, not knowing they were melatonin gummies, and we were just snacking on them for how good they tasted. And Kylie walks over after realizing that we were eating the melatonin gummies and was like, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're eating these gummies. And she's like, how much did you guys eat? And I ate like at least 8 of them, and Michael had like 6 or 8 of them as well. And she was like, holy shit. She started dying laughing. She had like a nervous laugh. And me and Michael were like, what's wrong? And we looked at each other, kind of like the scared, like nervous look. She goes, those are melatonin gummies. We're like, holy shit. We did not know that they were melatonin gummies. They tasted really good. Anyways, so me and Michael go to lay back down, and these melatonin gummies are kicking my ass, but I couldn't fall asleep because of the shrooms. And I remember just feeling so weird, and my body just felt so like uncomfortable. But I was laying down, and my imagination was very odd. I remember laying down, and everything that I thought and imagined, my imagination, like pictures in my head, looked like boxes. Like everything around it was like a black abyss, like a black just space. And then every thought and picture and image I had in my brain was just a box, like a square, and it would float away after I would think about it. So I would think about something like a cat or a dog or something random, and it would like float away into this abyss, blackness. And then the next thought, the same thing would happen. It would like float away in like a different direction. It was really weird. So me and Michael eventually fell asleep, and then me and Michael woke up. We only had like 4 hours of sleep. For the amount of melatonin we had, we only had like 4 hours of sleep because we had to wake up and go to SeaWorld this day. So we wake up, and I remember waking up feeling like a small Lego character human. It was really weird. Like the way how my brain was working, it felt so weird. Like I felt very small walking around, and I was still feeling the shrooms from the night before. So anyways, me and Michael, we get into the car, and on the way to SeaWorld, we were actually going to stay in a hotel the day and night before we actually went to SeaWorld for how far away it was. And so we actually get to the hotel that we were staying at, and I remember staying in the hotel room, and it was just like a really like a smaller hotel room, so it was like a box, and it just felt felt kind of weird. And I remember that right before we were about to go eat dinner that night at the hotel room, I started throwing up for how shit I was feeling from the shrooms. And I started throwing up blood, I think. I started throwing up blood, and it was just not good. I just felt like shit the whole time, that whole night, that whole day. I felt like shit. And anyways, so we went to go eat dinner after, and then we fell asleep, that night. And then we wake up, and then we go to Busch Gardens. I remember walking around Busch Gardens just feeling like so odd and not myself from the shrooms. And yeah, me and Michael just walked around. We didn't go on any rides because of how we felt, because our heads were still just very like combobulated from the shrooms. So I don't think roller coaster rides would have helped that at all. And pretty much, yeah, we were just there with Kylie, her mom, and her little sister. And Kylie, the one that I was dating, she actually broke her phone that day at SeaWorld. It dropped and fell or something, and she smashed it, which sucks. But yeah, guys, that's the story of my first time ever taking shrooms. Crazy story. I hope you guys learned something from the story, to not do exactly what I did, not to take, that excessive amount the first time doing them, and make sure you guys have somebody there for you to watch you, and to make sure that you have a trip sitter, make sure that you're safe. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time. Please leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next story.